Okay, now this is where we were for this is on Sabbath. We camped there Friday night and Saturday night.
No.
Daddy, why did you guys all have short hair that time?
Well, it was back then.
Dad, you have just like short.
You guys looking for crawdads or something.
Why are you guys moving
Daddy
around?
found one.
Crabs.
Kids had a day, a good time.
Oh,
Okay, meanwhile back at the ranch.
Oh, lucky!
I think this is Sunday morning getting ready to go, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so too.
Or was it just Saturday afternoon driving around? It could have been that.
No, we weren't ready to go yet.
Yeah, I think it was just, there's the box, a famous box.
That box was wired on. Precariously.
Yeah, this is 24 years ago.
Yeah, look at Dad.
That's long.
Is that the ocean?
Yeah. And this is the, around Bremerton.
Really easy for it.
Lauren, didn't he have a shirt on?
Okay, we're coming up here where Clinton has his pants problem.
You got it up there.
Yeah, it's, well, yeah, a little, well,
What they're talking about, my bike brakes, I had to push the pedal back. I didn't have hand brakes, and we were going down a hill,
Who's that?
that's right there.
and my pant leg got caught in the spoke, and I couldn't push the pedal back to brake.
Didn't have a belt, so I had to
And
fix some
Dad
string.
came up beside me, grabbed hold of my handlebars, and stopped us both. My lifesaver.
Bicycle fell over.
Now remember,
Yeah.
this kid could barely, he had to help him to get on the bike.
I think
You're going to push him down that long hill?
I'm going down this hill. I had to, did the kid get his pant caught in the chain or something? Because I know I had to catch him. Okay, now we're getting ready to go on the ferry again. Going this Sunday morning, heading back home.
Dad.
Lauren still wears that hat, doesn't he? Want to put back in the boot camp.
By this time, Marlon and Dad were carrying everything.
Why did you get this, Grandpa?
Harry, Clinton, and I, we weren't carrying anything on our bike.
And Terry's the little one.
I still don't know how he got all the food for us when he only took one meal. It just shows the spirit of adventure that
Seattle sky.
our dad had.
Yeah, it is.
Willing, you know, he didn't have GPS to find out where was, what stores or whatever, but we didn't go hungry.
One eating spot to the next.
We almost went up.
65. Yeah, I was only there.
We'll go ahead and stop it here.
62 is
Even though the quality of the video was not too good, it was a momentous occasion in our lives as boys, having our father take us on this bike trip and the experiences that we had with it, the memories that we have of it. And again, it demonstrated to us, you know, what Dad was really like. And it wasn't just this bicycle trip. I mean, we went on so many trips together, not only as a family, but him taking the four of us, water skiing, snow skiing, as I mentioned before. And that's what Dad wanted to do. And later on, Mom, in order to keep up, actually learned how to water ski and snow ski. And
And the second bike trip we went 2 years later, Mom came along.
very Very good.
One of the things that really sticks out in my mind about Dad is when he was working there in Seattle for the Nelson Medical Group, he worked long hours. I mean, there were very few times that he would be eating breakfast with us because he was always gone to work. And then a lot of times he would be working when we're getting ready to go to bed. But so often, if there was an event happening, like there was one day in the middle of the summer, we were playing a baseball game. At least I was. I'm trying to think. I think Terry was playing with me, but all of a sudden, Dad just showed up in the stands, to watch us play baseball. I don't know how he found out that we were even playing, but Dad was always making an effort to put us kids first. And, we talk about, water skiing and snow skiing. Dad, when we ski, we're very intense. We're trying our best to get a real low cut, on a slalom ski. So there's not a lot of smiling going on. We're just really intense. But when you watch Dad water ski, he always had the biggest grin on his face. I mean, he would lay over and he would cut just as hard as he can, slowly across the wake and just pull out there. And he'd turn around and look at that big spray that he's making. And that told him how good he was to see that big spray out there, just smiling with a grin on his face.
In 1963, he took the four of us up to Stevens Pass for snow skiing. Back then, they didn't have the safety equipment they do now. It was called the bear trap bindings. And we skied all day, had a great time. And, as kids, you want to keep skiing. And Dad said, well, one more run. So we went up one more time, and I was waiting down at the bottom of the hill. And Lauren comes down, and instead of stopping beside me or going by me or whatever, he ran straight into me and broke my leg. And we kind of debate it to this day, whether I was in his way or he just didn't know where he was going. And fortunately, and Dad being Dad, he wanted to, I didn't think I was, he wanted me to get up. We were going to go. It was the end of the day. But fortunately for me, there was a ski patrol that saw it. And he immediately came over, and Dad's trying to help me up, and he says, no, don't get him up. Let's brace his leg first. And I'm very thankful that happened, because as soon as we got back to town in Seattle, he took me to the clinic where he worked. We got an x-ray, and they found out my leg was broken in a diagonal. Had I stepped on it, I would have had a compound fracture. So I was very, very thankful for that ski patrol guy to help us out.
But if you'd have just gotten out of my way.
Earlier, Mom had mentioned that Dad would be willing to do lots of things. One of the things that Mom and Dad tried to do is help a young boy named Roy, who was a juvenile diabetic and needed friends, and so we would have him over and do things. And one of those things was we took him snow skiing. He hadn't skied before. We tried to instruct. His first run down the rope toe, he fell, broke his leg. So that ended that day's skiing, and we had to take care of him.
Were you going to say more about that particular incident?
No.
Or, okay. I thought you were going somewhere with that.
Well, it was just the illustration.
Like Roy said later, wow, I really appreciated your dad or whatever.
It was just the illustration of helping people. And I just remembered that they tried to help people. And Mom and Dad were in the helping in the church, juniors and youth, in other kinds of activities in the church very frequently.
One of the things that I remembered about Dad is that he was there. And that's probably one of the things that was most difficult for me when I went through my divorce, is that I couldn't be there for my kids like I wanted to be there like Dad was there. A lot more I could share about that, but I appreciated him just being there. I do have a poem I'd like to read that I wrote about 30 years ago about my dad. It's entitled Like My Dad. The other day I got to thinking, what would a 10-year-old wish for in a dad? He would probably want his dad to spend lots of time with him, to play with him, and be really interested in what he's doing, just like my dad. He would also want his dad to do special things with him, to make special memories, to cherish for a lifetime, just like my dad. And then I think he would want to be proud of his dad for standing what is right when the times get tough, just like I am of my dad. And each one of these has pictures related to specific stories. And I guess he would want his dad to be proud of him, to praise him for his accomplishments, to put his arm around him and say, son, you did a good job, just like my dad. I think he would want his dad to have a quiet yet firm way, to not yell at him or call him stupid. When he knew he had made a dumb mistake, just like my dad. I also think he would want to know that he could always count on Dad, so that no matter what happened, he would know that his dad would still love him, just like you, Dad. Thanks, Dad. I love you.
Amen.
Amen. You probably noticed in the slides Dad holding a basketball, and it said, our gym. Well, when we built the house behind Seattle Junior Academy, the gym kind of became our playhouse because we were right beside it.
So here's the house,
Here's the house.
and here's an aerial view. There's the house. That was Seattle Junior Academy. We moved there so that we could walk to school. And there's the gym.
And so we would get on top of the gym and go down through the trap door.
Was this after the school closed or before?
Well, during and both.
Okay.
Because the gym would, we'd use it when school was closed during the summertime, or even when after school hours or whatever. But we'd go on top of the gym on the side there and go down through the girls' bathroom. They had a trap door on the very top of and then I would open up or one of us would open up the door and let the rest of us in, so we'd play in the gym. But what was interesting about the fact that we would do this is that 4 of us would play basketball together, and then Dad would show up later, and we ended up taking on teams 5-on-5 sometimes, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And Dad was there being that 5th person because he himself had played basketball in his day as well. And so it was very enjoyable. We enjoyed that with our dad.
This mic may not be working very well. But since you mentioned that, he told me one time, I don't know if he mentioned it to you, but he was playing basketball, doing a jump ball, and he tipped it into the basket from the free throw line. I just haven't heard of that, but that was an interesting story.
We did eventually get a key to the gym. That school, okay, I want you to, a scenario here. This here is where we lived before we moved to this street. I was not in school yet. Marlon and Lauren went to Mount Lake Terrace Elementary School, about 5 miles. Then they bought the property here right behind the school. That was 1966. I turned 6 and started school that year. And after my 3rd grade, the school board, the different churches, the constituency made a decision to close Seattle Junior Academy. Now what they did is those who were in the upper grades, 7 through 9, they were able to let them continue. But after that, those 7th, 8th, and 9th went, and it closed, period. But that meant that Lauren, Terry, and I didn't have a school to go to. You know, you think about it, being right there. That's why we moved there. My fourth grade, no, I think my third grade, so my first 2 years with Seattle Junior Academy. The next year, Lauren, Terry, and I went to public school for 3 days. Whatever reason, whatever was going through my mind, Dad did mention that when we came home, he said it was like a dog with the tail between the legs. Just somehow we were not enjoying it.
One of the reasons why Dad didn't want to send us there, because he didn't want to ask for financial aid. I mean, you have, Marlon was just going to the academy. We had, the rest of us were in grade school. So it was a huge financial burden.
Plus the bus trip that would have been necessary.
Right. And we all were taking music lessons. And so Dad thought, well, okay, let's try public school, save some money, and we can still afford to do a lot of the things we want to do.
But after 3 days, all I know is we found ourselves on day 4 on a van, riding an hour each way to school and an hour back.
I think I can tell you why primarily, because we were at school, they were talking about we came from apes and the evolutionary theory, and we would tell Mom and Dad that, and so we didn't really like it either, and they didn't like it. So.
But I literally begged Mom and Dad to send us back to Mountain Terrace.
Thank you for doing that. I didn't know that. Because the impact that had on our lives. Thank you, Mom, for continuing to send us to the Christian education that allowed the foundation of our lives to be centered in Jesus. Dad talked about 1975, a big move. It was a tough. I remember him having to go look for a job because after 17 years at Nelson Medical Group, the group of doctors decided that they wanted to get a different administrator. And that was tough. Ended up going to Rusk. Being there only less than 2 years, it wasn't the best move for Dad. But it was for Terry and I. And had a great impact for Uncle Roger and Aunt Carol and their family. But Terry and I were deciding what academy to go to. We tried to go to Ozark Academy because it had the biggest school would have the best sports program. But someone the principal of Valley Grande Academy came and visited us, sent us down to the academy by plane. We looked over the school, we decided to go there. And it was that next year that was a transformational year for Terry and I, where we both decided to surrender our lives to Jesus. It was no longer Mom and Dad's religion. It was Jesus was our personal Savior. They moved to Wisconsin. We're there 5 years. I finished college, took theology, sent out some resumes. One to Northern California, one to Texas, and one to Wisconsin. I know that Wisconsin didn't know me, but they knew Dad. As I thought about that, in preparation for this day, it dawned on me that it was Dad's reputation that I was invited to begin being a pastor. His influence, his good reputation, helping the churches wherever he was. And so I thank Dad for that.
All of us have commented to each other about how important it was, the sacrifices that Mom and Dad made so that we could attend Christian education. And it was phenomenal for all of us to be able to finish our education, whether it was through them helping us or through loans, but to go on and further our education through Adventist education. We very much appreciated that.
I don't know how many more stories you want to share, but I want to share a little bit about the last couple of years during Dad's time that he was declining. I had a job where I could come out here 2 to 3 weeks at a time for a few times a year and be with him. And I was able to be with him, you know, a fair bit. I really appreciated that opportunity. And I would often tell him while I was with him, Dad, thank you for taking care of me when I was a little boy. And he would always kind of tear up when I told him that. And I said, I love you. He said, I love you too, Terry. And it was just a great experience for me to have during that time. The day after he passed, I flew out here because I wanted to be here with family and just to process this. And the next day we went to the crematory where he was cremated. And I asked to see the crematory. She says, well, we usually let people do that. I said, well, I would like to see it. It would help me process it. My daughter was cremated about 5 years ago, and I really wasn't there either for that. I wanted to be able to experience that better. So she started telling me, it's like a gas, and then her voice trailed off. I said, I just sort of, in my mind, like a gas chamber. And so she showed me it's about 3 feet by 3 feet by 8 feet, and they heat it high. And after that, of course, they crush the bones. And anyway, these are his remains right here. And I don't mind if any one of you want to look at that, because it might help us to process our own mortality. You know, we're all losing order, right, day by day. And I wouldn't mind, because we've come here to acknowledge and honor Dad, but to celebrate a life without acknowledging the life giver would be a little bit arrogant. So I'd like to take it just like a couple minutes to paint a broad picture of what's really going on. None of us have inherent order. None of us can sustain ourselves. Only one. Only God has. He can't lose what he has, his order. We can. We see it every day. We're losing our own order. And when God created us, he created us with the ability, the capacity to love with all this equipment that we have. But when we pushed him away and said, we think we can exist apart from you, we lost that. There was a void there. And ever since that time, there's really only one right decision. And that is to come back to him, to allow him to recreate us, to love with all this equipment that he gave us, that he originally designed us, as he originally designed. Because the law of life is based on the law of love for the universe. And so if we don't want that law of love inside of us, that's our choice. He died to give us that choice. While there's still time, while we still have breath, while we still have some order, that's what I want for my life.
Thank you, Terry. At this time, we're going to invite Diane to come and sing a song, Thank You. And then following that, we've invited the brothers and sisters that would like to share. We'll start with Roger and go down the line in order of age to share a couple minutes of what they remember of Dad. And then after that, the grandchildren will have an opportunity to share.
We turned and saw this young man. He was smiling as he came. And he said, "Friend, you may not know me now." But then he said, "But wait, you used to teach my Sabbath school when I was only 8. Each week you would say a prayer before the class would start. One day when you said that prayer, I asked Jesus in my heart. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am so glad you gave. Then another man stood before you. He said, "Remember the time a missionary came to your church? His pictures made you cry. You didn't have much money, but you gave it anyway. Jesus took the gift you gave, and that's why I'm here today." Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am so glad you gave. One by one they came, far as the eye could see, each one touched by your generosity. Little things that you had done, sacrifices made, unnoticed on the earth, but in heaven now proclaimed. And I know up in heaven you're not supposed to cry, but I'm almost sure there were tears in your eyes. As Jesus took your hand, you stood before the Lord. He said, "My child, look around you, for great is your reward." Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am so glad you gave. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am a life that was changed. Thank you for giving to the Lord. I am so glad you gave. I am so glad you gave.